No, it's class. But what I love is almost at what point did you get the itch to? I know you did some freelance stuff before you went to Rise, but
Yeah.
almost at what point did you think, you know what, I kind of want to take my own destiny in my own hands?
I've wanted to start a business like properly for as long as I can ever remember. So it was just about when that would be and what it would be and what the opportunity would be. And the opportunity came about, and it felt like the right time. The industry was in the right place, and it was. You could say I planned this for ages. I didn't. Like we decided to do this pretty quickly, and all together came up with the idea. And it's something that I've always wanted to do. So I would like, even I've said to my parents, every job I've ever been in or whatever, ever since I was young, I'm going to own my own business. I'm going to do my own thing. I've always wanted to work for myself,
Hmm.
and I was very in every job I've had. I've been very lucky that I've had the autonomy to do that and lead it. But now, yeah, this is something of our own, which is something that I personally always wanted to do, and I'm sure like your audience are very similar.
But I think that what's interesting is, and this is something it's funny when you get, so I'm 39 now, but as you get a little bit older, you start to piece things together. I remember once my uncle said to me, you know, you'll learn stuff across your career in jobs that seem meaningless or whatever, but will come back and it'll fit at a certain point. But all of the skills that you've been learning to do, leadership, getting people together, being enthusiastic, doing stuff on camera, doing socials, doing PR, selling stuff, running budgets, that's all building towards a certain point where actually, you know, having all the stuff that you need to kind of do that. But the one big thing as well is that because it's scary when you make that jump, because in theory there's no guaranteed paycheck, and it's
No,
I think, you know, it takes a certain type of person to be willing to take that leap, if that makes sense.
I mean, I would say I am a bit of a risk taker. And I know you sent some questions about what sort of stuff we might talk about today. And one of the things you sent me was like, oh, your best piece of advice.
Hmm.
And I'd look at it. I literally 5 minutes before I jumped on that. It's not really a piece of advice I've heard, but it's more of a mantra. And it's a famous. This is why I love YouTube, by the way. There's a famous YouTube channel called Yes Theory, and they just go around the world doing crazy stuff. And they always say seek discomfort, and you'll grow from it. So
Hmm.
seek discomfort. So that's literally anything I ever go into, whether it's being on a podcast, whether it's going into a business, seek that level of discomfort. Make sure you're not going to be comfortable doing it, but you'll grow from it and you'll be more comfortable afterwards. And what if something fails? I'm quite lucky that I can probably go and get another job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
That's the beauty of it. Yeah, yeah.
the failing is fine. I'm not scared of failing. I'm just throwing myself into situations. So it's what I do on the daily. Like I'm telling you, putting a camera in front of your face, walking down the street in the middle of London, say that's not easy. That is seeking discomfort, but it gets easier.
I once did it in Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, and that was the most public place at a departure gate I'd ever done it. And I was like, ah, well, at least now I have my own private contained room, which kind of
Yeah,
is a little bit different. But again, it's that kind of, at least for me, the will, the drive, the passion. So I was in Cubs and Scouts growing up,
yeah.
and I have no problem at all if this completely fails, goes tits up, whatever. As long as I know I've tried my best,
Oh yeah,
fine. And I don't know about you, but say from sports, I hate it when you lose against a bad team because you just didn't really show up. You didn't put the effort in. I have no problem if I get absolutely smashed by someone that just nailed it. The team, they were just really good. I do. I applaud that.
yeah,
And that's essentially what business is. It's like the world's, do you know Mark Cuban, who's a basketball owner for Dallas
yeah,
Mavericks? He says that business is the world's biggest sport because it runs 24 hours a day. Everyone in the world is involved and it's
yeah,
mega competitive. And I kind of love that in some ways, but I know it's not for everyone, but
yeah.
I love it. People that do.
I do as well. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, I'm one of those people who you said it literally nailed on perfect. I've said it to Luke and Katie multiple times over the past 3 months. Is I'm going to give this like my 100% because otherwise I won't forgive myself afterwards.
Yeah.
If I give my 100% and I do everything in my power and whatever happens happens, then so be it. But
Hmm.
luckily, it seems to be going the other way, which is even good. So I'm going to go even harder now.
No, good. But I think one of the other good things as well is that you mentioned before about personal branding and when you were doing certain things to build people's profiles. But the same is true that I was hired recently by an IT firm, and the MD, I hadn't spoken to him in 10 years. But he'd been tracking some of the stuff I was doing just casually, just osmosis absorbing in the background. And then, they've asked me to help with but the point is, putting yourself out there and doing it and just showing commitment, people embrace it. They love it. And I guarantee for you, Luke, Katie, or anyone, people will happily snap you up. I'm always looking out for who's good, who's talented. Hence why we first spoke. Because actually, and hi, thanks to Tony as well, who tuned in, but it's trying to create that network of good, solid, talented people who could be in Nigeria, could be anywhere in the world. That it's just, the world's changed, and it's how you just find your feet and work with good people and bounce off good ideas. And that's
it is, yeah.